are here with the amazing Amber Elliott.
Good morning.
So she is one of the busiest ladies in Houston. She doesn't go to one or two events a day. She goes to like 5 or 6 events a day, covering fashion, art, society, who's doing what, where they're doing it, and you're in the mix of all of it. What a dream job.
Thank you.
I'm going to give a little history about you because you're pretty much a badass. So, you have dabbled in a lot of industries. You were in public relations. You had special event experience. I don't know if you know this, but I was a journalism major too.
Oh, cool.
Yes, and I went to A&M. You had a little bit of time at A&M.
1 year stint, yeah.
And you went to Texas State.
Yes, Round Rock, yeah.
Yes. And, okay, now here's the really impressive stuff. Condé Nast Traveler, Style.com, Hamptons Magazine, Rob's favorite, The Wall Street Journal, and Vogue. She worked at Vogue.
I did.
So is the movie The Devil Wears Prada real?
I mean, in some ways it's exactly how it was, but in other ways I feel like working there for real was a little bit tougher.
Tougher than the movie?
Yeah, I think what they captured, was I didn't realize, when you think about fashion girls, you think about just going to fashion shows and lunches, and it's not really like that. Because I was really young when I started there, and so our whole job was to set up before the editors got there, so we would be there 7:30, and then, you're there until the job is done. There is no 9 to 5. That doesn't make any sense to them. You're there until it's done. So a lot of times during busy seasons, I'd be there till 1 in the morning, and then my boss would expect, my behind in the seat the next morning. We don't celebrate a victory. We just keep going. And so I think that was a bit of a reality check in a good way. Like you learn
work ethic.
A work ethic, a schedule. But other things they got exactly right. And I know a former assistant wrote it, but like there was a book. Twice I got to take the book, never to Anna, unfortunately, but like her driver would take me to other editors' homes to drop it off. And it's such an honor, to have it that like you're happy to wait, but it's also really hard to sit, in the office when your friends are at dinner until 8, or 10 at night. But that's what it called for. So I'm really thankful for that. I wasn't there for that long, but I'm really thankful for that experience. I think it shaped my career and just changed the trajectory of, my whole life. So.
And so did you really dress up every day, and did you wear heels? Or because sneakers weren't in style back then. And I heard from another woman that worked at Vogue that it was looked down upon if you were not stylish.
Yeah, so yes and no.
Mm-hmm.
One, Anna Wintour, herself is a big fan of recycling outfits. Like every season, she gets new clothes, but they're extraordinary clothes. We're not talking about going to Zara and getting 50 things. We're talking about, like high fashion couture. So maybe 5 or 6 things. So she's a big fan of, she will wear the same thing every week. Like a Monday outfit, a Tuesday outfit, and then just recycle them. And so that was encouraged. However, sneakers were not, and so we all kind of had an idea of when she was coming in. If she were, like in Paris for the week, then we might be a little bit more chill, throw on a few more jeans than we normally would. But it was under my little desk, I might have like 4 or 5 shoe options just in case you need to run into a meeting. Then I would definitely put a pair of heels on.
And then there was a quote that I'm looking for, but I'm not finding it in my notes about you give it back in a better condition than when you received it.
Oh, so you were on a fashion shoot with me. I was very fortunate that one of my first fashion shoots at Vogue was, I think, it was the 10th anniversary of the CFDA.
Yes.
Which it was in a different format than it is now. But there was a runway show, and my editor was Lauren Howell, who some people might know. She was on the Hills for a little bit. She'd come in for shoots, and now she does more for Architectural Digest. But she came in, and then her assistant Jessica, and so there was a team of us in this little studio working on the CFDA show for weeks. It's on Spring Street, across the street from Marc Jacobs' office, which is really cool. But so when we first started, and we would get racks upon racks of clothes to go through for this shoot and runway show, and Jessica told us, and I will never forget this, she said, "This is Vogue. We returned things in better condition than we received them." and that means we don't throw anything away. We keep track of the box that it was delivered to us in, the tissue paper. We don't throw the tissue paper away. We fold it so we can put it back in that tissue paper. Like, it just taught me, like, we're precious with what people have given us. And so I've been at other places where you throw things on a rack, you throw things on the floor, like you kind of, at the end, it's a mad scramble to get things back, and that was not the way it was done there, and that's kind of always stuck with me. I can be a bit of a stickler on a photo shoot, but I realize that what a lot of people have given me is very precious. In some cases, there's only one of that thing, and I take it very seriously. And so whenever possible, I try to send it back in the same, if not better condition than I got it.
Okay, so let's talk about the photo shoot we did together.
Yay! Photo shoot.
Speaking of one of a kind, I don't know, it was the Oscar dress came for the photo shoot. I don't know that it was one of a kind, but it was one of very few.
The runway sample.
Oh my gosh! And I have chills. I get chills over fashion. Do you still get chills?
I do.
And just seeing it, and it was, and it's such an orchestration. And we show up. You were there at 6 a.m. We wanted to get the light. I mean, it's not glamour. It's schlepping, and your car broke down the day before.
Oh my gosh.
Like, real life interferes with the dream.
We like to say that the worse the prep, the better the shoot. And so the night before that shoot, my car broke down. My photographer just gotten off a plane. She'd been in Central or South America for a month. Her car didn't start. I had come here, and thankfully you had the foresight to be like, I will just bring everything to the shoot. On my last pickup, I went to start my car and nothing. And I had, I'd gone to like 4 places between then, and I couldn't start my car. I couldn't open the trunk. It was like, it was because everything is set. People are coming. Like, there's no pushing it back. There's no delaying it. There's no changing a time. And yes, so the dress that we got from Oscar was a beautiful gown that probably cost more than my first car, straight off the runway sample. Just, huge train, embroidered flowers. And what's cool to me about runway samples is, that's the way that the designer has envisioned it exactly. By the time it comes to the stores, a buyer from Bergdorf or Neiman might say, we'd like that, but maybe a few inches shorter, or like, we would add a belt. My buyer doesn't wear black. She wants it in pink. So I like getting a sample because you're getting what the designer envisioned in purest form. And I think that's why it's so special. I don't know if you could see, but the shot that we did on the staircase, that was going to be our cover shot, but drama there. Myself and 2 assistants are crouched behind the photographer, and I started crying during that shot. It was just so beautiful. I think, like, when everything clicks like that, like I said, everyone's car broke down. Like, Oscar accidentally sent one thing wrong. Something had to be overnighted, like, to the shoot. But when everything, like, clicks into place because the preparation is there, it's just so beautiful. You could tell that the model was really, like, feeling herself, feeling the dress. She had on beautiful jewelry, some one-of-a-kind pieces from, like, Valobra that they loaned to us. Gentry Kelly did a beautiful job with the photo shoot. And when you just, like, everything clicks into place and it's exactly how you visioned it, but maybe a little bit better. And I probably cry once on every shoot. And it's usually when something is so beautiful, I just can't take it. And that was that moment.
And the hotel itself is just incredible. So
Magical.
It's Le Colombe d'Or, which is, it is a Texas landmark.
Yeah.
And the Zimmerman family went in and refurbished it. And the art is what really moved me. And the way that they combined modern with vintage, which I think is also a reflection of what I see so much in style.
Yes.
You are a vintage girl, but you wear it in a way that looks modern. And I think that's what some people are like. I remember when I left the family business to become the vintage Contessa, they're like, you're going to sell old bags. I'm like, well, kind of, but not really.
Yeah.
So tell us about, like, how do you combine new and old? Like, and are you the one that is, like, on the biggest trend? Because you seem like you included things that are cutting edge, but they also seem really classic.
Yeah. One of the highest compliments I think I got from that photo shoot was from Jen Braverman, the interior designer who decorated or designed, I don't know the proper term, like all the amazing bungalows that we shot in. And that's a really good example of vintage meets new, because there was that amazing, like, orange leather modular sofa, but mixing with very new chrome pieces and lucite, and like that's how I think of dressing, I guess. Like being a girl growing up like in Cyprus, like there are a couple shopping malls and a couple of boutiques, but there isn't a whole lot of high fashion. And so I think like for me it was a mixture of looking at Vogue, so I'd get like an idea of what was coming, but also looking at maybe like a Vanity Fair or a Town and Country. And a lot of what's featured in those pages is heritage, things that people have collected over the years. So when I think of vintage or consignment, I don't think old, I think collected. And I think a really good wardrobe is layered. So like I might, like now it's Fashion Week, so I'm kind of looking at what's coming out on the runway and thinking like, who are we after the pandemic? You see a lot of utilitarian, you might see a few more comfortable materials than we've seen in the past because we're all like sitting at home and we're on our couches, and so comfort has more of like a precedence or importance than it's had in the past. So there's a little bit of newness, like what do I want to buy that's new to add to my wardrobe, but I still want to look like me. And some things, I don't like the word classic, I like timeless, like something that just comes back. Like, and a really good example you have some are like the Dior saddle bag. Like when I first saw it on Sex and the City, when Sarah Jessica Parker had it, it was so new. But now they've reissued it and kept the exact same shape and just added new prints and styles and colors. And I think
and show us my
baguette.
Fendi baguette. Yeah, that was a whole episode.
So I think something that's built really well never goes out of style. You can just build upon it. You can put it away and like bring it back. I love an it bag. This is like a Fendi baguette that I got on the Real. I like it because it's an unusual colorway. You can hear my mints jiggling.
Yes.
But it's a cashmere wool, and like if you look really closely, there's little F's like in it, like in a slightly lighter color. So it's not like in your face logomania, but like if you know what it is, then you know what it is, and it goes with everything. I tried to wear all vintage for you today. So this is like a 2-piece vintage Missoni set and some vintage Prada sandals that I got this summer and like promptly destroyed. I took them to the beach, but it's worth it. I think like clothes are meant to be like lived in. I'm not precious with my things, just other people's things. But I like to wear my stuff. I think it deserves to be out in the world, and it puts me in such a good mood. So whatever.
Okay, so we've talked with women about this. Mine and Danette's strategy is when we're having a bad day, we tend to overdress so that it light and wear color because then it'll light you up, and then you feel better and you walk better. Yeah. And sometimes you're faking it till you're making it, which I know is confusing to be saying, let's live the authentic life. But sometimes you do kind of have to suck it up and push through it. And I feel like clothes are art. And there's such a great combination. We're going to be at Memorial Antiques and Interiors next week. Oh, cool. And we're talking to Natalie Reese with the Impeccable Fine, because art and fashion are so interwoven. Yeah. I mean, you are covering both for the Chronicle. You probably see that. We had our most amazing collaboration in that vein was we gave 10 Louis Vuitton vintage bags to the Center for Contemporary Craft, and their artists in residence translated them to pieces of art. Some of which were pieces of jewelry or bags, but some of them were just objects. Okay. And it was incredible. I saw that you just wrote about Gucci and what they're coming out with. And we're seeing that with so many fashion houses moving into home goods.
Yes. Yeah, I think to what you said, like true fashion is a work of art. And I think my favorite quote from The Devil Wears Prada is when like Stanley Tucci's character is, like art is something that fashion is greater than art because you live your life in it. And I think,
oh God, Danette, take that down. That's a good one. We got to put that quote on.
I didn't. He said it, but I feel in that same vein. Like that's why it translates into objects in your home. Like I think like a well-appointed home is a mixture of things that they should bring you joy. You should look at them and lay on them, and it should bring you joy to interact with them. Some of my favorite pieces are from my favorite heritage brands. Like in my house, I have a Tiffany blanket that I embroidered in Tiffany blue that says this must be the place. And when I see it, I think about how much I love that brand, but also it says you're home. It's not a bracelet, but I also have my Tiffany blue mug. I think there are just so many different ways that the things that we love to wear can translate into just happiness around the home. And to what you said, a great outfit can change your day. When I'm in a bad mood, I put on pink or a print. They used to make fun of me at the office because I would wear white every Monday. That was my uniform. It was just kind of like fresh start, clean, like it put me in a like let's go mood, and they'd be like, you know, it's Monday, she's in white. I think like clothes have that power, but also as we're at home, you know, like you want the same beautiful objects like in your house. Like why shouldn't your coffee mug be beautiful? You know what I mean? Like, and people make fun of me when they come to my house, but I'm like, these are my things. I have to look at them every day and use them every day. Why shouldn't they be beautiful and like reflect who I am?
And do you think, was that, okay, so you grew up in Sci-Fair, which is not a place that people think of as being beautiful, but you moved to New York. But one of your favorite places I've read is Park City, Utah.
I love Park City.
So you like a multitude of different things.
Yeah, I think of, I feel like I quote a lot of people, and I don't mean to, but like, I feel like someone asked Tom Ford, because he grew up in Texas.
Oh,
yeah.
yes.
Like, what was it like growing up in Texas, like being who you are and over the top? And I was like, I thought I was fabulous and everyone else was stupid. And like, that's like how I felt. Like in high school, I'd drive into town with my friends and shop the vintage stores on Westheimer and like cut up my clothes. And like, I didn't care that everyone else is like in Old Navy flip-flops. Like, I wanted to wear tulle. And like, that's just like kind of carried through. And I think I like Park City because I feel like everyone from here goes to either Aspen or Utah. And I've been to both, but I feel like Aspen is stylish, but in a different way. It's a little, I love it, but it's a little bit more like formulaic. Like everyone wears the same wool hat and like the same cape and the same white jeans. And I love all of that. But I think there's a little bit of like, is it anonymity? I can't say. I've only had 2 sips of coffee, but there's a little, because like there aren't so many people that you know there. There's a bit more
you can be a little bit more under the radar.
To do what you want. It's what I like to do when I go there. Don't laugh. I almost wore a different outfit today, and I like to test drive outfits in places like that because like I'm not going to see anyone. So like, I have this wonderful vintage this time, and I was like, I don't know, I'm going to style this yet. I'm not sure. Like 'cause it's an old. I wore it for the first time over just like different things to figure out what worked. Like, you know, and being able to do that there. And I also think Park City has some amazing vintage, and they also have some really good jewelry shops. And so I like to go there to get pieces.
Find everywhere else.
I actually met a jewelry vendor that I love at the rodeo here. She's shown every year for 3 years. I think the store is called Bling Crosby.
Okay.
It's on the main street, and I met her at the rodeo. And so now I go and I get a lot of turquoise from there. And so again, there's a little bit of like, you can find things there, but the vintage is insane because like you're saying, it's not a big fashion town. So no one is going to go there and buy 10 things to ship them all home, but like you and me. And
exactly.
So it's like ripe for the picking, and now everyone's going to do it. So whatever. But I mean, people dress up at Sundance. There's really cool, they make a lot of jewelry in house there. There's like silver welders and stuff. And so it's a great place to get one of a kind things and bring them back and have everyone be like, where'd you get that? And mom's the word. Now I've spilled here, but that's why I like to go there.
So that's how our business started. Was I was traveling all these places. I was buying for myself. Friends were saying, well, will you buy for me? And then it just broadened. And now that the world has changed with COVID, we can't wait for the doors to open. But it also, I'm so inspired by what I see in other cities.
Yeah.
The streetwear, not who bought off the rack and wore it as the designer did it.
Yeah.
That is taste and wealth. But like real style to me is how you put it together in a different way. And I am the queen of mixing high and low.
Yes.
And I love, right now, neon, but I don't know how long it's going to be around. So I just bought a pair of $69 neon yellow boots from Zara because I want to mix those with a dress I've had for 10 years that might be more timeless and classic.
Sure.
But then when I add the belt and when I add the shoes and when I add the bag, then you can get the mixture of all that. So I think that, and I love that, I mean, we know you're choosing the photographs. For me, I feel like I do need to cycle through things. Do you feel like there's any women in Houston, Texas that are re-wearing?
Yeah, one of my very sweet friends a few weeks ago, he's married and he was like, I'd like to buy my wife like a few new dresses. Can you recommend something? He was like, you always look like you're not wearing the same, you never wear the same thing twice, which is hilarious. Funny story, senior year of high school, this girlfriend challenged me. She's like, let's see who can recycle the most outfits before the other one notices. And so we went, I think I don't remember how long we went, trying not to rewear things, but in such a sneaky
different way
that people wouldn't notice. And like,
Yes.
I loved that, and it's kind of like stuck with me. I totally rewear. I know the last time I wore this, like, but I like to space things out, or like you said, if you throw in a neon boot with it, everyone's gonna be looking at your boot. They're not gonna remember your dress, and so you can
dress or whatever it is.
So you can totally
basic. Yes.
So you breathe like new life into it. And I also, so my style icon, oh my God, I just worship her, as Lauren Santo Domingo, former Vogue editor, moda operandi founder. But she is the cheekiest person I've ever met. Just to keep on quoting, I feel like that's my theme. She said this amazing thing that my editor made me write a story about. She said there are two types of girls: the ones that could make expensive clothes look cheap, and the ones that can make cheap clothes look expensive. And I feel like those are us. She was like that.
I love that.
My editor makes me write about my clothes, and I'm like, that's the lead. You're opening with that. And I'm like, but it's true, and it's all about like attitude and like how you wear something. Like this ring costs $5. I bought it when I lived in Austin, living on the drag as a student, and I get more compliments about this piece of jewelry than like anything else that I wear. I'll have like, you know, the Dior bracelets, like all of a sudden people are like, where'd you get that ring?
Exactly.
Like, well, you can't, but it was all like,
exactly.
It was $5. So I don't think it matters how much it costs. I think it matters like how much you love it and like feel like you.
Okay, so speaking of outfits, you're going to the Astros Gala tonight.
Yeah.
So you do go to all these amazing things. How do you pick what designer to wear? You're so great about supporting local. I know you have a great relationship with David Peck and Chloe Dow. We I mean, tell us about how do you pick what you wear to these things?
One, I love a theme. And so when I get invited to something, I'm always like, what's the theme? What do we wear? Like, I'll ask Richard Flowers, like, what does your table look like? Like, like people have put months into planning and thinking about it. Like, I want to, out of respect for that, like, I want to dress appropriately. So for tonight at Diamond Dreams, which has gone from like black tie to tonight, it's like cowboy chic.
Which we love in Texas.
We do love that.
Yes.
So it's like cowboy chic. So they're like, wear a fun cocktail dress in cowboy boots. And I'm like, done. And because it's the Astros, again, I tried to put some thought into it. So I'm wearing this little Carolina Herrera cocktail dress. I'm very excited about it. It's white on top with blue and orange, like sequin and beaded detail on the bodice, and then an orange ribbon, and then like a blue skirt. Because again, I like putting thought into what I'm wearing. I think people, they appreciate when you put that effort in. Like, they've certainly put on effort, you know, to put the event on. Lyle Lovett's performing, so that's really exciting. But with other things,
good old Aggie boy,
yay! But also after the year we've had, you know, just everyone's trying to be more, to diversify, to be like more inclusive, and so I've tried to be more mindful about wearing a range of different designers. Like, for Tiger Ball this year, I've been wearing a lot of Bipu Moapatra, who's like he's become a good friend of mine. He was in town a few weeks ago and he DM'd me. It was the coolest DM of my whole life, and asked me to lunch. Because I'd worn something of his to Museum of Fine Arts, and so I couldn't rewear it to Tiger Ball, but the theme that year I think was like Incredible India, and so I wish I'd had more black tie by Indian designers, but instead I wore like Vera Wang. But May had been, I think it was Asian American and like Pacific Islander heritage one. So I tried to wear as many, you know, designers with, you know, with that heritage, just again, like out of respect and just in the name of like inclusivity. Like, I know people are going to ask me, it sounds dumb, but like, you know, who are you wearing? Or like, what's that designer? And so I want, whenever I can, I want to just introduce people to just new talent, like new voices. I worship David Peck. He is so generous with his time, you know, in Houston. He gives so much to nonprofits, and so I try to support him whenever I can. Even sometimes I'll have a dress that I don't love, and I'll take it to him by another designer. I'll be like, David, like, let's put your touch on this. Like, he's added like straps to things for me. I remember I had like a black and white gown that just didn't feel quite like me, and I loved. It was like 2 years ago, and like the black velvet ribbons were everything. It's like shoulder straps, and so I had him add a very long, dramatic on both sides, like straps, just to add like a local touch to like a different designer. But I mean, he's just the best, and we're so fortunate to have him and call us one of our own.
And I notice it really when I travel is that our city is so multicultural. And I notice when I go to a birthday party, like everyone there, I guess because we're oil and gas and we're such a melting pot, but it's incredible. And then that's what I love too is the styles of all those cultures being woven. And now we're finally more aware of that in fashion.
Yeah.
And we're embracing it. So I think it's great we're doing these. The Tiger Ball.
Yeah.
I stalked your Instagram, and one of my favorite pictures is you and Len Wyatt in your orange. Do you know what event that was?
I think it was Manila Rothko, right?
I think so.
Yeah, I do remember that. That is, oh my God, I love that dress so much. It is vintage Dior. It's Galliano Dior. You can't see it, but on the side there's 60 cloth buttons, like they're out of silk and they're
so you
hook
need
eye.
a dresser.
So basically. I have sometimes it's just me like hooking as far up like as I possibly can. I love that dress. It takes a good 9 or 10 minutes to get like all of those to go up, and so I have to try not to like sweat in it. It's like it's silk. It's like an iridescent silk. Charlize Theron like wore like a pale yellow version. I feel like to the Golden Globes a long time ago. But anyways, I got that at the Salvation Army Chic Boutique sale here. I get a lot.
Never been to that still. I bought a lot from the Women's Home because they have the cottage, and we used to do.
I love the Chic Boutique sale. I go every
so
year.
Good,
They
I've
usually
heard.
let me go in a few days early, and they only let me get 3 things. And so
Yes.
I feel like when I shop, I black out. I want so many things that like I literally like black out. And I got like a YSL with like the Rive Gauche, like one of the original labels there. In like black silk. It's like an evening gown, but just like the skirt, very narrow with like a slit. This last time I got a men's Burberry wool navy blue trench coat, original tags on. Even have the little cedar hangers to keep the moths out. It like drags the floor and set my tailor. I gotta take in the sleeve and take it. I mean, like I clean every year. It's the best. I love that. Like I love that it, like the volunteers spend a whole year going to different women's closets and being very selective about what they choose, and like everything that sells goes to charity. Like I think it's just such like a thoughtful way of I don't know connecting so many communities, and then you feel good about buying Chanel flat. You just feel good about what you're purchasing, but it's also so special because it comes from the closets of women that you know. And my favorite thing about antique jewelry and vintage is that like. It's like vintage furniture to me. I like to envision the woman who owned the things before I did. Where did she wear, that cocktail ring? Like where did she buy that dress from? Like what occasion was it for? Like I just like, and oh my God, in the little Chanel cardigan, the woman who donated it this makes me sad. She tucked her business card into like one of like the pockets, and I didn't discover it until like I wore it many times, and it said like enjoy, I think, with like an exclamation point. And so I Googled her to see who it was, and unfortunately she'd passed away. But I think like what woman like gives away this Chanel cardigan and knows that someone's gonna buy it and just like puts a little memento on the card. I feel like the life of the woman who owned the garment is like totally breathed into like the fabric, and it's so fun to wear things and just like daydream about who owned it before me.
I love it. So one of my most special pre-owned purchases was a hat that Joanne King Herring donated to the Women's Home. And it is the fabric of the brown with the white polka dots that Julia Roberts wore at the Stomping of the Divots and Pretty Woman. And it has this great sash that goes with it, and she signed the interior of it. And Joanne's just done so many amazing things for the world. I mean, for our city. And so, yes, I feel so connected to her. And you are so connected to charities. How do you pick, like, is there something that has your heart? Or every time do you go, does your heart melt? And, like, tell me how you even choose, like, where you can commit your time and your energy and your love, because it seems like you're giving to so many.
Well, for work, I try to keep it as newsy as possible. So for coverage, I go for what really speaks to like a need in Houston's communities right now. what's going to be newsy as far in terms of like fundraising or like, like a headlining performer, like a lot, like, obviously tonight Lyle Lovett's performing. That's really cool. A few weeks ago, a hospital emailed me and just like, heads up, this is going to be, we're going to break a financial record. Like, so people have started to realize that like, I need a news element. So that's what kind of steers me coverage wise. In terms of like organizations that I feel personally connected to, a big one is food. I just feel like food is universal. If you're hungry, you can't work, you can't concentrate in school. And so organizations that are food related, like Second Servings or our food bank, are really important to me. Second Servings takes, the food that's been prepared but isn't served from galas, weddings, etc., and gives them to places like the Women's Home. I think that's so smart, because as much as the galas I go to are beautiful, they're very excessive and they can be wasteful. And I hate the idea that this gets thrown away, because in a lot of hotels and event venues, they can't even give them, to the servers or the staff. And so knowing that an organization like Second Servings comes behind and is able to actually use those is very meaningful to me. Also, things like Dress for Success for obvious reasons, because these are women who use Dress for Success often are transitioning out of poverty or prison, and they're going into their first job interviews. And as you mentioned at the start of our conversation, like, the outfit makes the woman sometimes if you're trying to fake it until you make it. And I really think that if you're going into an interview and you have on something that you feel amazing in, and your resume is in a great briefcase, you might get a job, like you might get that job. And so I love that they give those women that extra layer of confidence. So that's really important to me. I gotta brag on our Houston rodeo. Like, growing up, I wanted nothing to do with it. I was like, this is cheesy, this is that. Living in Austin and then New York, I came back and I was like, I've been sleeping on the rodeo for like my whole life. And I think what people don't understand is, yes, it's a concert. Yes, it's barbecue. Yes, it's, the competitions, but all of that money raised goes to students and scholarships. Every single penny. And like, they raised, I think this year they raised $21 million during a pandemic. And the entire organization is run exclusively by volunteers. Unless it's like a paid exhibitor or something, like, it's all volunteers. And so I'm working on Houston Gives, which is the Chronicle's annual roundup of who is giving back. And I had to talk to a young lady a few mornings ago. She's from Waller, which is like the town next to Cypress where I grew up. Her parents are older. And she knew in high school that they would not be able to pay for her college. They had nothing saved. Her dad works 2 jobs, like even now. And I could hear like tears in her voice. And so I started tearing up. She was like, I've been so stressed wondering how am I going to pay for college? And she is a scholar. She was not involved in the rodeo, and her counselor said they give scholarships to kids who aren't, exhibitors. So she applied and she got one of their Go Texans scholarships, which is 4 years, $20,000, and it covers her schooling. Only 79 kids get that, and it just, like, you could hear. And this girl, I mean, she's a sophomore, and she's driving. She's working full time. She's in school full time. She's like has a really cool degree and like a double minor, and like I'm talking to her as she's driving from school to class, and like being able to have that money, like that grant, like it allowed her to go to school. And I just think it is so important. It reminds me of, like, it kind of brings me down to, like, galas are cool, luncheons are awesome, but like at the root, my beat and what Houstonians do allows other people to come behind them and to keep, to getting their education and all this stuff. And so I'm just really thankful for our rodeo and what they do to allow talented Texas students, to get that education.
And it is heritage and culture.
Yeah.
I mean, it's such a slice of life that you don't get in another place. So tell us, one of my favorite quotes also from you was that you don't like small talk.
Oh my God, I hate small talk.
Okay, so girl, I mean, that's, I think, the thing that so many people like say of the women who lunch, the ladies who lunch, is that it's small talk. And I'm in the process right now. I don't even know if I told you I'm writing a TED Talk.
Oh, I didn't know that.
And it's called Living the Authentic Life. And one of the things that I mentioned, I said, as a fashion girl in the beginning, one of my goals, every event I went to, I wanted to find one person that I had meaningful conversation with,
Yeah.
that I could take away and have something other than where'd you go on a trip, which can sometimes lead to meaningful conversations. And it can start with, I love your outfit. I've seen those lead to, but it's got to go deeper. And everyone knows you, and it's hard for you to remember everyone's name.
Yeah.
Like, how do you get to meaningful conversation with people? Because I think that's what we missed during COVID, is that real connection.
Y'all, I am the worst. This is like one of the things I hate about myself. Like, I am not, I feel like Texas women have really great manners, and like, I just could care less about keeping up appearances. I sometimes try to fake it, and I really can't without like some white wine or a bourbon. I can't do it. And so I feel like some of my friends are so embarrassed when they're out with me at parties, because if someone just like goes, if the small talk starts, I usually look for an excuse if I can to like to walk away. I'm gonna, because it's just quotes, baby quotes. But one of my she goes, I look at a girl who wants to talk about the weather, and I'm like, if you walk up to me and go, God, it's hot. I'm like, is there nothing more interesting? And I think it's a skill that some people have. Like, if a lot of people are not comfortable in some of the settings that we're in, so like,
it's hard.
I think it's very gracious when someone says to someone like, "Are you from Houston originally?" For me, if sometimes I hear that phrase, I will say my favorite drinking game is to take a shot every time someone asks. Like, I get asked the same 3 questions in a row. Are you from Houston originally? How long have you been with the Chronicle? And like, did you study journalism in school? And so I'm like, my drinking game should be, I get a shot every time someone asks me that.
Somebody asks you the stupid question award.
But that's a me specific thing. There's value in that, because it's a very inclusive way to bring people into the conversation. But I also think, to what you said, we've been apart for so long. I do not want to, like, if I've not seen you in 9 months, I don't want to talk about the fact that it's raining outside. How are you? How's your family? What did you read? What did you cook? Like, I want to know, like, what have you as a person been like doing? What do you like? What are you looking forward to? Where are you going? Like, I think, like, have you been on any trips lately? Is, like you said, like a very entry level way of having that convo. But like, first plane you get on, where are you going? Like, you know what I mean? But that's a more just like energized way of having those convos. But again, I just think, like, I've realized that life is too short just to like go through the motions, and so I don't want to talk about blasé things. Like, I didn't put on a full face of makeup and some jewels to to do that. Like, if we're gonna be out, like, let's be out. And I think, like, one of the things I loved about New York is, like, they have really perfected the art of like a dinner party, or like in France, like going out to dinner and sitting in a window and like talking, not just like checking in and asking like basic questions, but like it's spending time with people is an event. Like, you dress up for it, like you put time and effort into it, and so like those interactions reflect that. And part of me really wishes that Texans could eliminate some of like the sugary sweetness and just like have more, like you said, authentic interactions with each other. And so I don't know, I think my manners may have fallen even more to the wayside. Like, during the pandemic, I'm really gonna try, but not that much. I want to know how people like really are, like, good or bad. Like what are you into? Like, how's it actually going? How's
life evolving for? Because a lot of people's lives have changed. So much. With what's been going on. Are you feeling like things are coming back? I was devastated that so many things there's continuing to be delayed, postponed. The biggest event the Chronicle does, Best Dressed, again, postponed. What do you think is going to happen with all that, or other events the Chronicle's doing?
I think Best Dressed is still TBD. I think my other personality default, my friends will also agree with this, is that like I hate canceling. Like, to me, if you make it's like putting something on your calendar, like at work. Like, if you tell someone you're going to do something, then you're doing it. And so canceling for me just like grates my teeth. And so obviously there are extenuating circumstances we were in, like a once in like a generation, not even that, like it's the equivalent of like a 500-year flood, like what we're all like living in. So there are extenuating circumstances. If people feel like it's unsafe to gather, by all means, like do not like hold an event. On the flip side of the coin, I think because we live in Houston, which has the Texas Medical Center, like the biggest, I feel like, in the world, Houstonians are going to be canceling large events in a way that I don't quite see in other markets. And I also feel like as a person who's out, what I read is different from how people are like living. I read like pandemic, everyone's staying home, and then I like go to Whole Foods or to dinner and like I can barely get a reservation. Like it's like, so I think like there's like two worlds of people who are very afraid and with reason who are staying home and are reading how scary it is, and there are people who are living their lives, and it's kind of weird as a reporter to be like in the news, just like reading it all the time and like in it, and then to leave my house and like go to Austin and like see more people on West 6 than I've ever seen in my life.
Exactly.
And so it's just kind of like, I think it's personal choice at this point. I think we are very fortunate to live in the U.S. and have access to vaccines, and I encourage everyone to get them because it's the fastest way that we can all get back to normal. But I think I also don't want to discourage people who have done what they've been told, who stayed home, who wore masks, who got vaccinated, and who are now ready to get back to their regular lives. I think like make your own choice, but like please don't go after people like for choosing
I think that's the hard part, right? The judgment that so many
what they've
people
been told. Yeah.
Well, and I love this when you said, "What is your greatest fear?" You said, "Living by fear instead of by faith."
Yeah. I just that's like I am fortunate because I feel like when 10-year-old Amber made a list of all the things she wanted to do, and like I've crossed off a lot of those, but as like I'm entering, not like as I'm getting older and I look back and a lot of my friends are re-examining their lives, I feel like a lot of people have a lot of regrets and they're looking back and being like, I never did this, or I thought my life would look like that. And so I'm really fortunate that I don't have a lot of those holdbacks. And so but I think a lot of the faith part is just like, I'm openly, like Christian. A lot of my decisions are guided by, out of faith and prayer and being convicted. I feel like, this is what you should be doing. This is where, you should go or live or whatever. And so like that guided a lot of my decisions. And so I think like my life in a way turned out the way that it did because of that. And so
because you envisioned it.
Yeah.
Because and you became what you wanted to be.
And I don't want to discourage. I feel like you can always start over. Like, but I think there's no. But I think even if you start over, it's always going to be scary. There's always going to be like what ifs. Nothing is guaranteed. Nothing is certain. And so I'm like, if you feel like you should be in a certain place or doing a certain thing, you have to jump off a cliff. You have to have faith, whatever that looks like to you, that like if it's meant to be, it's gonna happen. My mom, like growing up, I'm the oldest of 4, and like I did wild things. I dropped out of A&M and like moved to Austin like a month before I guess like like that new like semester started, because I just felt like this wasn't the right place for me. I need to go where I need to go. And she's like, what are you doing? I moved to New York because I went for Fashion Week and I came back and I lost my job, and I was like, well, I think this worked out because I want to live in New York. And she's like, are you insane? And I wrote out a proposal and I asked my parents for a loan, and I told them when I would pay them back, and they were like, absolutely not. And so I drove from Cyprus to Austin, and on the way I thought of, what can I sell? What odd jobs can I take to make that amount so I can move in a month? And when I got home, I emailed my landlord. I'm like, I'm moving in 30 days. Like, I will find a replacement. And I literally spent every day applying for jobs, and selling myself on Craigslist and taking odd-in jobs. And like, I moved to New York with 2 suitcases in a box and 11 job interviews. And I didn't tell my parents. My brother saw it on Facebook. And so he called my mom, and like it all worked out. But like, and at the time my parents were furious with me. They're like, what example are you setting like for your siblings? But I knew. And so
you had a plan.
So now
Yes.
It's my mother's favorite story. Like at holidays with her friends. And now my siblings are pretty fearless. I'm so proud of them. And my mom's like, that's because they had you being a clown, just doing whatever you wanted. But now I feel like my siblings are all very self-realized people. You know what I mean? Like they grew up to be like who they are. They have very strong senses of self, and I think that's undervalued. I think like in our society, period, people go along to get along, which is fine. But like, why would you want to just be like the vanilla version of yourself? Like, be the sprinkles version of yourself, or like the chocolate chip cookie dough version. Like, you should be like who you are. And I don't know. I just think life is too short to be basic. Like, to, you know, like, that's just like how I feel.
Okay, so
not everyone agrees with that.
My last quote is that you said that about the current job you have, you said you drafted in the opening line, it said something like former Voguette for Houston Chronicle Society opening.
Yeah.
And like the fact that you just asked for it, that you created this plan, it is the one thread I see with everyone I interview that I believe is living authentically. They visualized what they wanted and they went for it, and they didn't stop until they might be moving, the path might be different, but they went for it.
I think especially as women, we wait for people to give us things, to offer us things, so we can graciously accept them. But I think in certain circumstances, no one's going to give it to you. You kind of have to take it. And I felt, and I was 30 days into working at the Wall Street Journal at WSJ, and someone put in my ear, you know, my predecessor was leaving her job at the Chronicle, and like I always thought if I came back to Texas, it would be for the Chronicle, because that's the paper I grew up reading, or go back to Austin because I loved it there. And you know, Shelby Hodge, whom I adore, Louisiana girl, had that job for years. You know, Maxine Messenger had that position for decades. So I had this like overwhelming sense of like, if I don't get it now, like I might never get it. And so, yeah, I think I wasted 2 days, and I went out and I got some champagne courage, and I drafted at 1 a.m. to my now boss.
I love that.
And I was just like, what is gonna, I'm sure hundreds of women that she actually knows are applying for this job. What can I put in, you know, in the email that, you know, in the subject line that will make her open this tomorrow morning when she gets into the office? And so I said, I think it said like former Vogue stylist (?) for Chronicle, like society, whatever I did, ... And I timed it, because you can time when you send emails, for like 9:01 or something. So like, because I know that's when in the industry people open their emails, and I sent it. And 3 days later, she responded with like, "Hi Amber, thank you for applying. If you want to move back and talk about freelancing for this position, we'll do it." And so I was like, I'll be home in 30 days. So I did the reverse of what I did when I moved to New York, and I emailed my roommates. I'm like, love y'all, I'm moving back to Texas. And I packed up all my stuff, and I moved back with just that email. And it's crazy because she didn't email me back for like a month and a half, 2 months. Like I'd be like, I'm back in Houston whenever you're free. A few weeks pass. Hey, I'm sure you're super busy. I can bring you coffee. Let me know like you want to come to the office. And eventually she was like, hey, you want to come in this day? Like whatever. And I walk in, and we sit in her office, and she talks to me for a few minutes, hands me a stack of invites, and she's like, start. And like I started, you know, like in my parents' kitchen in Cyprus, driving into town for an event, you know, sitting in a little coffee shop, filing the story until they're like, okay, this girl can actually, she can write a little bit. And but it grew from there, and it was so crazy because again, my mom and I are so funny now. At the time, she's like, you were insane. She's like, start applying for other jobs. She was like, be a teacher, and you could like do a blog on the side. And I was like, no. I'm getting this job.
I'm going it.
And like I just waited it out. I like that was a time where I was polite as heck because I wanted the job. I was just like dripping in honey all the time. And like Melissa and I laugh about it like whenever we're at an event together, and like tell people ask like, how did this happen? I'm like, tell her the story about the crazy email that I sent from New York. But like that's how it happened.
That's so good. Well, you are 100% living the authentic life, girl.
Oh,
this has been so incredible.
Is time up already?
It's already up. It's been 45
sorry.
minutes.
I talk too much.
You talk beautifully, and what I love is you tell stories, and that's what
I
you
like
do for a
talking with
living.
you. I feel like we do this whenever we run into each other.
We do,
so it's fun
and it's just good to tell stories. That's where the connection happens.
Yeah,
and you have so many great stories. And then we need to have champagne, and you can tell me the real stories.
Yeah, no, I will. Yeah.
All right, big hugs.
Thank you for having me today. It's been a real pleasure to kick off, but I think it's going to be a fun day to start it this way with you.
Yes, so this weekend, the Houston Chronicle colorful inset.
Yeah.
Sunday edition goes on sale.
Yeah, we have a beautiful quarterly luxury magazine called The Page. It's on newsstand September 12th. It's our fashion issue. You were so gracious to bring so many goodies from the store to our shoot. And she's one of it's like a Dior,
Yes.
crossbody is on the cover there's some really good fashion in it. So please check it out. I think it's online too. So thank you again that was a fun day.
Yay.
That was a fun day.
All right, guys. Have a good one.
Thank you. Bye.